If you won $315 million tomorrow, would all your problems vanish?
Oh man, you'd think so, right?
You really would. Or could that money actually become like your biggest nightmare?
Hmm.
Can money really buy happiness? Welcome to Everyday English Flow, daily English practice, natural speaking, and effortless listening flow.
I love that question, honestly.
Right, and I am so glad you decided to join us today for this deep dive. Today, we are exploring the complex psychology, the economics, and the philosophy of how wealth actually impacts human joy.
It's such a massive topic.
It really is. We're going to look at real life stories ranging from billionaires to, washerwomen and uncover the science of spending for happiness.
Sounds like we have a lot of ground to cover.
We do. And before we get going, I want to give you a clear roadmap of what you will walk away with. We are going to reveal exactly 5 practical strategies for maximizing happiness with money.
That's right. 5 actionable things.
Plus, there's a special bonus insight waiting at the very end of this deep dive. So let's unpack this. We use the word happiness all the time, but what are we actually measuring?
That is the perfect place to start. And, just to unpack that phrase, because analyzing a complex idea in detail is exactly what we are here to do.
Exactly.
Right. So if we want to unpack the consequences of wealth, we first have to define what joy actually is. Like, for example, you might say, before we make a decision, let's unpack the consequences of this plan.
Ah, got it. So it means to just break a big idea down into smaller pieces.
Exactly. And happiness is definitely not a single flat emotion. Researchers generally break it down into 3 distinct layers. First, there is your daily emotional well-being.
Okay, so like my day-to-day mood.
Yeah, your day-to-day, hour-to-hour feeling. How often do you experience positive emotions like joy, contentment, or laughter on, say, a random Tuesday?
Right. So if I am eating an incredible slice of pizza while watching a funny movie, my daily emotional well-being is temporarily peaking.
Yes, peaking high.
But obviously, that fades as soon as the movie ends.
Precisely. And that brings us to the second layer, which is life satisfaction. This is a much broader assessment.
Like taking a step back.
Exactly. When you step back and evaluate the big picture, do you feel good about the trajectory of your life? You might be having a terrible, stressful week at work, meaning your daily emotional well-being is very low.
Right, right.
But you still possess a high level of life satisfaction because, you are building a career you actually care about.
Oh, that distinction makes a lot of sense. The weather might be stormy outside, but you still love the house you built.
I love that analogy.
Thanks. And you mentioned a third layer.
Yes, the deepest layer. It is a concept called eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia.
Yeah. It is a beautiful word that means achieving a deep underlying sense of meaning and purpose in life. It goes far beyond just feeling good in the moment.
So it's bigger than just being comfortable.
Much bigger. It is the conviction that your life truly matters to the world. For instance, you might say, volunteering at the shelter gave her a sense of eudaimonia that her corporate job lacked.
Eudaimonia. I love that. So happiness is this complex blend of day-to-day feelings, overall life evaluation, and deep purpose.
You've got it.
Now, naturally, you would assume that injecting a massive pile of money into that equation would just, maximize all 3 layers instantly.
Well, you would assume that, yeah. But human psychology is incredibly resilient, and that resilience actually works against us here.
Wait, how does resilience work against us?
Because the biggest obstacle to buying happiness is a psychological mechanism known as the hedonic treadmill, or hedonic adaptation.
I have always thought the hedonic treadmill sounds like an incredibly punishing piece of gym equipment.
Honestly, it functions a bit like one. In psychology, it basically describes our tendency to rapidly return to a baseline level of happiness.
So we just go back to normal.
Yes, regardless of the major positive or negative events that happen to us, we drift back to our default state.
Let me see if I can visualize this. Is it similar to the thermostat in a house?
Poke on.
Let's say you have the internal temperature set to 70 degrees. If you throw open all the doors in the middle of a blizzard, the house gets freezing cold for a little while.
Right.
But eventually, the heating system kicks into overdrive and drags the temperature right back up to 70.
Exact.
Or, conversely, if you turn on the oven and heat the place up, the air conditioning eventually kicks on to bring it back down. No matter what extreme weather occurs, the system defaults to that baseline setting. Is that how we process money?
That is a phenomenal analogy. Yes, that internal thermostat is the essence of hedonic adaptation.
Wow.
Imagine you get a massive promotion and double your salary. You are ecstatic. You upgrade your apartment, you buy designer clothes, you eat at better restaurants.
So the temperature in the house goes way up.
For a few months, the temperature is amazing. But eventually, well, the system resets. The thrill fades.
It just becomes normal.
Yeah, your luxurious new lifestyle simply becomes your new ordinary normal. Your happiness drifts right back to its baseline.
I hear what you were saying about the baseline, but I have to push back a little here.
Sure.
Surely someone making $500,000 a year feels less baseline stress than someone making $90,000. I mean, is pursuing a higher income entirely pointless?
It is not entirely pointless, no, but the return on investment diminishes rapidly. Research shows that an income boost absolutely lifts happiness, but only up to a specific point.
Okay, so there's a cap.
Exactly. It is widely believed that daily emotional well-being levels off at a certain threshold. Historically famous studies place that threshold around $75,000 a year in the United States.
And today?
Adjusted for modern inflation, it might be closer to $90,000 today.
So once you cross that $90,000 mark, having an extra $1 million in the bank doesn't actually make your Tuesday afternoon any more joyful.
That is what the data says. Your daily emotional well-being hits a ceiling. Now, your overall life satisfaction might still climb slightly.
Because you feel successful by society's standards.
Exactly, because society tells you that accumulating wealth means you are successful. But those day-to-day positive feelings flatline.
If adaptation is inevitable, we really have to look at the other end of the spectrum. Because if you are struggling just to survive, money is definitely not subject to a plateau. It has to mean everything.
It absolutely means everything, and that is a critical distinction we need to make.
Yeah.
We must separate the psychology of sudden luxury from the brutal reality of basic survival.
Right.
If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the foundational base of human existence requires physiological safety. Food, clean water, shelter, security.
Yeah, if you are freezing and hungry, you are certainly not philosophizing about achieving eudaimonia. You just want a warm meal.
Precisely. At that base level, money is nothing less than survival. It removes the chronic, crushing biological stress of lacking necessities. The impact of poverty alleviation is staggering.
Do we have an example of that?
Yes. Consider the story of Fatima Begum. She was living in severe poverty, struggling to feed her children. Through a microfinance initiative, she received a remarkably small loan of just $100.
Just $100. I mean, in many wealthy cities, people drop that on a single dinner without a second thought.
I know, it's wild. But for Fatima, that $100 was life-altering. She used it to buy a sewing machine. That machine allowed her to start a tailoring business.
Wow, so it created a sustainable income.
Suddenly, she wasn't just surviving day to day. She could afford nutritious food, basic health care, and schooling for her kids. But beyond the physical necessities, it granted her incredible empowerment and elevated her dignity within her community.
That is profound. It wasn't just a financial transaction. It was like a transfer of agency.
You see this proven on a massive scale, too. Take Brazil's Bolsa Familia program.
What's that?
It is a conditional cash transfer system where the government provides low-income families with monthly payments, but with strict conditions. They must keep their children in school and ensure they receive vaccinations.
Oh, that's smart.
It is brilliant policy because it alleviates the immediate crippling anxiety of poverty while simultaneously incentivizing long-term societal health.
And did it work?
Yes, the result has been millions of people lifted out of hunger and an undeniable, measurable boost in life satisfaction.
So when moving from absolute zero to basic security, money acts almost like a miracle. But let's flip the script completely.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's talk about the curse of sudden wealth. Because if you already have your basic needs met and then you suddenly receive an astronomical mountain of money, things can take a very dark turn.
The contrast is genuinely jarring. Sudden, massive wealth can be incredibly destabilizing.
I am thinking of Jack Whitaker. He was already a successful businessman, but then he won a $315 million lottery.
Oh, yes, a famous case.
You would assume his life transformed into a permanent, stress-free paradise. Instead, it became a waking nightmare.
It really did.
He faced endless frivolous lawsuits. He was constantly hounded by strangers begging for cash. He suffered severe isolation, descended into addiction, and endured horrifying family tragedies.
It's awful.
He eventually stated publicly that he wished he had just torn up the winning ticket.
It is a devastating story, and it is a stark reminder of what happens when resources become disconnected from purpose. When a situation deteriorates rapidly and becomes completely impossible to manage, we say it spirals out of control.
Spiraled out of control.
Yes. Think of a pilot losing command of an aircraft. Similarly, without a strong moral foundation or a clear budget, someone's spending and lifestyle can quickly spiral out of control.
That is a powerful way to describe it.
Look at Bernie Madoff. He possessed immense wealth, yet his unchecked obsessive compulsion for even more money led him to orchestrate a massive Ponzi scheme.
Which ruined so many people.
It destroyed his own life, shattered his family, and ruined the financial security of thousands of innocent victims. It is a chilling example of the pursuit of wealth becoming a deep psychological pathology.
It is terrifying how fast the dream can become a nightmare. Now, before we move on to one of the most fascinating economic paradoxes about wealth and society, I want to take a quick second to speak directly to you, our listener. If you are enjoying this deep dive, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to support this everyday English flow.
Your support truly allows us to keep exploring these incredible topics together.
All right, let's dive back in. We have established that sudden wealth can ruin a life, and that once basic survival needs are met, the emotional return on money drops off.
Correct.
So, this leads me to a major question. Why do so many people living in rich countries who have plenty of food and shelter still feel so deeply unhappy?
This brings us to a foundational concept in economics called the Easterlin paradox, named after researcher Richard Easterlin.
I think I can guess where this is going based on our thermostat analogy. Is the paradox that having a bigger, nicer house doesn't actually matter if your neighbor suddenly builds a massive mansion right next door?
You hit the nail on the head. The paradox observes that at any given moment within a country, richer people report being happier than poorer people.
Makes sense.
However, as the entire country gets richer over time, as the national economy booms and everyone's income rises simultaneously, the average national happiness level stays completely flat.
Because we don't judge our wealth in a vacuum, we evaluate our success based entirely on social comparison.
Exactly. It's what we call keeping up with the Joneses.
Oh, that's a great idiom. Could you explain it for the listener?
Absolutely. Keeping up with the Joneses is that exhausting trap of constantly trying to match your neighbor's social status or wealth. You see people who buy a new luxury car just to keep up with the Joneses, even though they can't afford it, simply because the family across the street got one.
It is a treadmill of comparison. If I get a raise, my brain should be thrilled. But if my coworker gets a larger raise, my brain completely ignores my new wealth and only focuses on the deficit between us.
It's purely relative.
And I imagine this affects everyone, regardless of tax bracket.
It affects everyone. Even the most powerful billionaires are not immune to the baseline struggles of the human condition.
Really? Even billionaires?
Consider Elon Musk. He's a figure of staggering, almost incomprehensible wealth. He has ultimate financial freedom. Yet, he reportedly works brutal 100-hour weeks.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. And he has spoken openly in interviews about experiencing deep loneliness, immense stress, and heavy existential pressure. His wealth provides massive power, but it offers absolutely no immunity from human suffering.
So if hoarding millions of dollars like a billionaire doesn't guarantee joy, and constantly comparing ourselves to our neighbors is a psychological trap, we need a better game plan.
We definitely do.
How should we actually be utilizing the money we have?
This is where the science of spending comes in. Researchers like Elizabeth Dunn and Michael Norton have done incredible work analyzing where our dollars yield the highest emotional returns.
And what did they find?
They found that spending money on experiences creates far more lasting joy than spending it on material goods.
I have to admit, that sounds a bit counterintuitive at first glance.
How so?
Well, a new top-of-the-line smartphone sits in my hand every single day for years. A vacation to Italy is over in 7 days. Shouldn't the physical object provide more lasting utility and joy?
It seems logical until you remember the hedonic treadmill.
Yeah?
You adapt to that new phone in a matter of days. It quickly becomes just another boring piece of plastic.
That's true. The magic wears off fast.
But experiences operate differently. First, you get the joy of anticipating them. Then, you enjoy them in the moment. And most importantly, you reminisce about them for years. Experiences become woven into your actual identity.
That makes total sense. Memories don't depreciate the way electronics do. It reminds me of the Johnson family's story.
Oh, right, the Johnsons.
They made a radical decision to sell their comfortable, heavily mortgaged suburban home, took the equity, and traveled to 30 different countries together.
Quite a leap.
It was. They traded physical square footage for shared experiences, and they reported that it vastly deepened their family bonds.
It is a beautiful illustration of the principle. Furthermore, experiences usually involve other people. strengthening our social connections, which is a massive driver of human happiness.
Definitely.
Another huge finding from Dunn and Norton's research is the immense neurological power of pro-social spending.
Meaning taking your money and spending it on someone else.
Yes, giving to charity, or even just buying a coffee for a stranger, actively lights up the reward centers in the human brain. It triggers the release of endorphins. It gives us that profound sense of eudaimonia we discussed earlier.
That brings to mind the incredibly moving story of Osceola McCarty.
Yes, a perfect example.
She was a washerwoman who lived an incredibly modest, quiet life. She spent her days washing other people's clothes and lived very frugally.
Let's actually define that word for a second. Frugally,
Oh, please do.
meaning she lived economically, being incredibly careful with her resources and avoiding any waste. You could say she lived frugally for years so she could start her own business.
Exactly. And over decades of hard work, she managed to save
A
$150,000.
huge sum.
And instead of spending it to upgrade her own lifestyle in her old age, she donated the entire sum to fund college scholarships for students who couldn't afford tuition.
Her legacy is breathtaking, but her generosity was expansive. That donation brought her immense joy and a deep sense of purpose. We see this even with the ultra-rich, like Warren Buffett.
Oh, right. He's giving away most of his wealth, isn't he?
Yes, he has committed to giving away the vast majority of his immense fortune. The joy is found in the giving, not the hoarding.
But I wonder, is this a universal human truth, or does cultural context shape how we view wealth?
Cultural context shapes everything. In highly individualistic societies, like the United States, wealth is often tightly bound to an individual's perception of personal success and self-worth.
So it's tied to our egos.
Yes, it acts as a visible scoreboard, which heavily fuels that anxiety of keeping up with the Joneses. But in more collectivist cultures, found in many parts of East Asia or Africa, wealth is frequently viewed as a tool for supporting the extended family.
So it's less about the individual and more about the group.
Exactly, contributing to the community and maintaining social harmony.
The goalposts are completely different, and I know Bhutan takes this philosophy to a systemic level.
They do. While most nations measure gross domestic product, or GDP, which only tracks raw economic output, Bhutan actively measures gross national happiness, or GNH.
Gross national happiness, that's amazing.
They evaluate government policies based on how they affect the psychological well-being, health, and environmental sustainability of their citizens, rather than just looking at profit margins.
It is a radical shift in perspective, even within a single country. Context dictates happiness. Rural Americans, for example, often report higher life satisfaction than people living in hyper-competitive big cities, even at similar income levels.
That's a great point.
In a rural setting, community ties are stronger, and crucially, there is less highly visible luxury constantly triggering that social comparison.
Exactly. You aren't walking past luxury penthouses every day, so your baseline of comparison remains much healthier.
So, bringing all this psychology, these global examples, and economic theories together, we promised our listener 5 practical takeaways.
You did.
If hoarding doesn't work, let's actually build that framework. Where should we put our first dollar?
Strategy number 1 is foundational. Meet your basic needs first.
Makes sense.
Prioritize financial security above all else. Focus your resources on securing stable housing, reliable food, and essential healthcare. Removing the biological stress of survival is the biggest single jump in happiness your money can ever buy.
Okay, so the foundation is built. Once the roof is secure, does the next dollar go to upgrading the roof to a nicer material?
No, that leads right back to the treadmill. Strategy number 2 is prioritize experiences over things.
Right, the memories.
Invest in travel, learn a new skill, or just buy a great dinner with close friends. Buy memories that build your identity, not gadgets that gather dust.
And strategy number 3 leans into that brain chemistry we discussed. Right.
Precisely. Number 3, give generously. Engage in pro-social spending.
Even small amounts.
Whether it is a small tip or a large charitable donation, using your resources to help others literally rewires your brain to feel a sense of reward and deep purpose.
But how do we protect ourselves from the constant desire for more? That brings us to number 4, doesn't it?
Number 4, practice gratitude. This is your best defense against hedonic adaptation.
So just being thankful.
Keep a daily journal of things you are thankful for. It forces your brain to appreciate the baseline you have already achieved rather than constantly craving the next upgrade.
And the final piece of the framework.
Strategy number 5, align your spending with your values. Take a hard, honest look at what you actually care about.
Like what?
Is it family time,
Yeah.
health, art? Make sure your money is flowing directly toward those specific pillars, rather than just blindly purchasing what society tells you is successful.
I have to pause you there because when we talk about escaping the treadmill, avoiding physical goods, and focusing purely on values, it starts to sound a bit extreme.
How so?
Are you suggesting we should all throw away our belongings, sit in empty rooms, and never buy a nice coffee machine again?
Oh, not at all. It is absolutely not about deprivation. It is about intentionality. Look at modern cultural shifts like the minimalist movement, led by Joshua Fields Millburn and Ryan Nicodemus.
Right.
Or the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, championed by people like Pete Adeney. They aren't preaching that you must live in an empty cave.
What are they saying then?
They're arguing that you should consciously choose freedom, flexibility, and control over your time, instead of participating in endless, mindless consumer accumulation. They choose to live on less so they can experience much more of what actually matters to them.
We have traveled all the way from brain chemistry to modern minimalism and early retirement. But
Yeah.
you know what strikes me?
What's that?
None of this is actually new. This feels like an ancient human struggle.
It is the oldest struggle. Humans have been wrestling with the illusion of wealth for thousands of years.
And that brings us perfectly to our promised bonus. Thousands of years ago, philosophers had already solved this exact money-happiness puzzle that we are still fighting today. What did they figure out?
They understood that the mind is the ultimate battleground, not the bank account. It is believed the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus gave us a brilliant, cutting piece of wisdom. He said, "Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not."
Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. That is the ultimate antidote to the hedonic treadmill.
It truly is. And another ancient thinker, Diogenes the Cynic, took it to the absolute extreme.
Oh, I know this guy.
It is said he literally lived in a large ceramic barrel in the marketplace. He completely rejected all external wealth and social status to prove that internal virtue, a sharp mind, and independence are what create true freedom.
That's wild.
He demonstrated that you can be completely bankrupt financially, but entirely free internally.
Living in a barrel in the town square is definitely extreme, but the philosophical point lands perfectly. Now, before we sign off, I want you to think back to that concept we discussed earlier, the trap of trying to match your neighbors.
Ah, yes.
It is such a universal struggle. We used a specific idiom for it today. I would love to see if you caught it. Write the meaning of keeping up with the Joneses in the comments section below, and let us know if you have ever found yourself caught in that trap.
It is a wonderful exercise in self-reflection and a great way to cement the vocabulary we unpacked today.
And for those of you pushing your limits, if you are dedicated to your daily English practice and made it all the way to the end of this deep dive, write, "I stay committed" in the comment box right now. We love seeing who sticks with us for the entire journey.
Thank you so much for exploring these incredible concepts with us.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more effortless listening flow and everyday English practice. And as you go about your day, think back to that $315 million lottery ticket.
The ultimate test.
If someone handed it to you tomorrow, would you be holding a blessing or a curse? Because true wealth isn't about the numbers on a screen. It is about the richness of the life you build with whatever you have. See you next time.